Those lips were a struggle. I knew that those were wrong. She reminds me of Angela Lansbury a little bit.
Could be her.
Probably could be. Probably sounds like her. Hey everyone, welcome back to my dad's studio. We're going to do another critique today, and we're going to talk about Ignacio Pinazo. And my dad is really nice actually to do this for me today because he's going to be gone all week long on a trip.
Going to Albuquerque to teach a workshop.
So he's staying up with me a little late to do a critique, and we're going to talk about Ignacio Pinazo, which in my last video I talked a little bit about this painting I did of my youngest, and he inspired me to do this one because he has that picture of the sleeping child, and I remembered that I had a picture of her so similar, so that I talked about that in my last video, and my dad helped me frame this today. But we're going to get to the critique so he can go get some rest. What do you see? I know that I needed help with the hair. I ran out of some time. So I kind of left some things a little undone.
Well, I think you got the big shapes pretty good. The shape of the hair, face, neck, and so on. Probably a bit more value contrast between the front of the head, the front planes, and the side planes. The light is hitting her side, at the side of her face. So the front of her face is going to be more in shadow, to show more form. So the values are too close, in other words. So that kind of flattens her face a little bit. But I like the suggestion of the eyes, the features. Mouth's a little big.
Mm-hmm. I felt like it was too.
And yeah, it's also hard to tell when you get an image off the internet, because the internet is wrong most of the time. The values are too dark or too light, or the colors are too warm or too cool. So it's hard to know exactly unless you see the original. But a couple of things about the shape. The forehead sticks out a bit too much, so I'm just going to hit a few lines in there, which would also move the eye in just a little bit. Nose looks pretty good. I would get the base of the nose. And I know you just did a quick block in. Base of the nose lifted up just a bit. And then the mouth a bit smaller. And then a line, this line on the jaw comes up just a bit more. Which would also raise, this up. And probably move her neck in. Give her a little neck lift.
That's true.
About like that.
I had to take off her witch's chin earlier. I always give these poor women witch's chins first, and then I kind of carve it out. But
yeah, it's easy to get the features too big.
Yeah.
So that's why if you can get the shape of the head and just eye sockets where the bottom of the nose is and the top lip, because that's usually in shadow.
Yeah.
And just place that first, then it's a little easier to get the proportions on the features right. Then the hair also, and always think in terms of at least 3 values. And in the photograph here, we can't see all of it in the picture plane, but he has basically 3 values: shadow, halftone, and then some lights. And you've got shadow and halftone, a little bit of light, but I think this could be more halftone in here, and shadow with a little less light, but we can kind of block that in as well.
Okay.
Now it's a very, very warm flesh tone here. I don't know if the
I chose not to go that warm.
It may not be that warm. I'm going to do some burnt sienna and crimson.
It might be the computer, but it also seemed like a lot of his paintings were strikingly warm.
Were they?
Yeah.
I don't want to get it too reddish, so enough ochre or burnt sienna, usually ochre, and just get the lighter value. And getting that lighter gives me more contrast here, and that kind of turns a little bit more. Then I'm going to add a bit more red for the cheekbone because it's a bit more on the red side. And then on that cheekbone, which is a slightly darker than that, to me that's kind of the lightest big plane. Okay. I'm going to go in with a little bit of a highlight. Oops. My yellow's escaping. So I'm just going to go a bit lighter, maybe a hair redder. I'm working basically with red, ochre, a little bit of burnt sienna. Not really adding much blue, but I want a little bit lighter. I'm looking for 3 values, maybe 4 with the highlight. And it's a bit more yellow or orange there, and I could always turn that more yellow like it is in the reference. We won't go quite that. And I see
reference more cadmium yellow.
Yeah, but to me it looks more cadmium, at least in the print.
Yeah.
I can't imagine it being that yellow.
You don't think in person he would go that?
No, because this is 19. I saw the date on there, 1912.
Yeah.
I don't think they used more artificial, or not artificial, natural light, which is always cool. So I'm picking out these highlights here that'll give you the strong contrast. And I can vary it. It's a little bit slightly darker highlight with a bit more red there, a little more white there, a little more white there. Just looking for a little bit lighter. And think less about the color, even though when you copy like this, you're trying to learn about color, but it's more about the value first. You can always come back and adjust the color. Then I'm going to go to the darks. So let's get the shadow a bit darker. I'm just trying to turn the form. I'll add a little bit of blue to the red and yellow. And the red could be burnt sienna, alizarin crimson, ochre, any of those. I need that form to turn from the light side to the dark side. And if it's too red, I add a bit more yellow, ochre, and blue. If it's too blue, I can add a bit more red and yellow ochre. Now that's a bit too red, so let's add a little bit of blue ochre in there. Knock down you can almost have a big pile of this ochre red and blue and then adjust it, kind of push it towards the blue side, yellow side, or red and yellow side. A bit darker right on the edge there and going up into the hair. Then the background too. One reason her head in the photo and the print really jumps out is he has that background a lot darker. Yeah. And that's one of the main big contrasts you want is
oh, you're right, it is more viridian.
Yeah, viridian with a little burnt sienna. I don't know. This is really a phthalo green. It's a viridian hue.
Right.
Which they didn't have back then. It's a synthetic color, so I'm not sure what green. Emerald green, maybe? I'm not really sure.
I did mine with a little bit of cerulean blue and ochre.
And also with the background, we can cut in, give her a little bit of a nose job.
Mm-hmm.
And lip job.
Those lips were a struggle. I knew that those were wrong. She reminds me of Angela Lansbury a little bit.
Yeah. Could be her.
Probably could be. Probably sounds like her.
So just that darker.
Oh, nice.
Darker in there. And then the same thing with those lips. A little bit smaller by cutting in here. Get a little dark. Again, these are the front planes, the front of the forehead, front of the nose. Going to be darker. The front of the cheekbone going to be darker. Now his is still a bit more red and yellow. But value-wise, I definitely want it darker. So now you see the form turns right here and right there. And I'm exaggerating from what I see. I can always come in and blend and make it less strong. Like here, it's more subtle. But get it that way first to show the depth in there. So even if you maybe just do a burnt sienna tone turpentine wash drawing where you find the planes and the value contrast, then it's easier to come in and add color to it. Same thing with this mouth. If I can just get a big shape here, then add the lighter bottom lip.
Nice. That looks better. I'm trying to work on paint what you know, even if you don't see it very easily.
Yeah.
This is,
Yeah.
If I did it this way, that's a lot of like, make sure you paint what you know about the face.
Like the jawline here, I put it in pretty definite first. It was way too strong, but it established it. Yeah. Now I can come in and soften a little bit. Reflected light down there. And then same thing with the hair. Let's just use burnt sienna, blue, ochre. And I'll start with a halftone because there's a lot more halftone. Let's get her a bit more reddish. Make her a redhead instead of... Okay. It's hard to tell what color that hair is. I imagine it's blonde.
It looks a little red underneath his
lighter
color.
So if I get that... There's probably more halftone than anything. Then come back with the dark. And he did this quickly. He did the hair quickly with 3 values. So chopping in.
Would you say next time it just helps in general for me to lay down a mid-tone and then...
Well, on the hair it would, because I see mostly mid-tone.
Okay.
The face, it would be better to go dark and light.
Oh, okay.
Although you can look at that and say, gosh, it's all halftone, but see, that's the shadow. It's just a real light shadow.
So light, yeah.
I would just establish that first, then your lights, then find the halftone. I mean, I'm used to painting outside where there's a lot of strong contrast between sunlight and shadow, and it's a lot easier just to find those 2 extremes, then go middle value. But on a cloudy day, it's more halftone, so I would find the halftone of the big shapes and then the little bits of light and dark. So I see that as more halftone and more. Yeah. Then the light, and we'll just do mostly ochre, a little bit of the halftone thrown in there. And the lighter you go with the value, the thicker the paint. And he's got nice loose brush strokes in there that you can kind of... Because hair isn't stiff, so you don't want to use straight lines. And she's had a long day, so it's getting a little unruly. Yes. And I like the strong contrast is the eyes, a little bit of the mouth. So coming in here with... It looks like you just added black with a little bit of something slightly lighter in it for the eye. Again, a little bit darker in the shadows, so I could always come back and make things lighter if I wanted to, but I got the form, I think. Yeah. Stronger form with those darker shadows. And the original might have darker shadows, so if I'm going to do a copy of something from the internet, you can usually find 2 or 3 different images and see what the differences are. If there's one with more contrast or one with less contrast, which you'll find a lot, because it could be just someone holding up their iPhone and taking a quick picture, but use the one with the more contrast. Nice. Ideally, if you go to the museum where it's at and just paint it there. Yeah, I know. That's the best. Next time, I'll do that. Next time, I might try to, I did do a bit of a burnt sienna loose sketch, but I might just print out also black and white. I did that. Oh, okay. I did that with that
first man in the white
Yes,
suit. I did
yeah.
do that. And I do think that helped me. So I think I'm going to do that next time.
Yeah. But this one is a bit more difficult because of the subtlety of the planes.
Well, thanks. That's
Sure.
great.
That was fun.
Well, I learned a lot on that one. And my dad's primarily a landscape painter by profession. He's been doing that a long time, even though he can do everything. he can do portraits, figures, but his profession is landscape painting.
And what we talked about, though, applies to both figurative portraits and landscape. You're looking for, and still life, you're looking for simplified values, 3 values, 2 to start with, then go to 3, maybe 4 to finish. So the more you can simplify the values, the better you can show the form and help the painting to read well without too much detail.
Come back again when my dad's back in town. We'll have another critique of a new artist that we'll go over, and you can learn from him then.